Anything happening, Rita and James? Anything going on?
I went shopping yesterday.
Yes,
that was fun.
Yes.
Paddington. You know what? I hate to say I told you so, we told you so, but this is what we've been talking about on this program.
For 9 months.
For 9 months, particularly though, this year, 2025, we were just remarked week in, week out about how the coalition had stalled. None of that voice momentum had carried through. They'd lost their way. And once that election was called, I was expecting just a barrage of activity and policy and differentiation from Labor. We never got it on key issues: energy policy, population policy, all the race craziness that was inflicted on this country and continues to be inflicted despite the people having their say 18 months ago. And if you stand for nothing, this is what happens. Conservatives only win from a position of strength and clear policy differentiation. We didn't have it. They refused to walk away from net zero. They refused to say we're going to slash immigration after we've had record numbers come through. We are in a cost of living crisis. We've had our living standards plummet, and a government has won in a landslide.
Exactly. And if you've just tuned in or you only watch Outsiders, quite sensibly, yes, yes, the Labor Party has been returned in a landslide, apparently, and congratulations to Anthony Albanese for running that campaign. Peter Dutton has lost his own seat, and obviously the Liberals have lost the election badly. Here's, just before we go to more commentary, here's Albanese winning, his moment of his winning speech.
My fellow Australians, serving as your Prime Minister is the greatest honour of my life. And it is with a deep sense of humility and a profound sense of responsibility that the first thing that I do tonight is to say thank you to the people of Australia for the chance to continue to serve the best nation on earth.
That was Albanese, Anthony Albanese, Prime Minister for the next 3 years, and he's thinking much longer than that. And here's Peter Dutton, acknowledging he was beaten.
We've been defined by our opponents in this election, which is not the true story of who we are. But we'll rebuild from here. We'll do that because we know our values, we know our beliefs, and we'll always stick to them. I want to say thank you to the Australian people for the faith they've placed in me, and thank them for the great honour of having been the member for Dickson and the leader of the opposition. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Goodbye, Peter Dutton. Well, James, what did you think of that?
I mean, look, that Peter Dutton speech there, he did give a very gracious defeat speech, concession speech. However, that was once again an example of something that we saw through this entire campaign, and that is if you're explaining, you're losing.
Yes.
And Peter Dutton ran, and we were very critical of him on this show for weeks and weeks and months and months and months about this campaign that he ran that was simultaneously oafish and flat-footed and unable to respond to all of the lies that Labor let. Lie after lie after lie after lie. You know, from the $600 billion to the take away your Medicare to everything else in between. No way to respond to that. And yet, despite being completely oafish and flat-footed in campaign mode when they were talking about themselves, they also managed to do Olympic-level backflips at every stage of the campaign. And I'm talking about they started out with the backflip on the work-from-home policy, which was an ill-advised thing to throw out there without having done any sort of thought about it, to, even 72 hours before the polls opened up on Election Day, Peter Dutton was out there saying, look, I may have talked about changing the school curriculum, which is totally woke, but no, we have no changes planned to the school curriculum. This was an exact example of what happens when a party, and we have spoken about this for years, the problem that the Liberal Party has of losing its way. And it has become, this is what happens when you try to be all things to all people. You forget your core constituency. You forget your core values. They've forgotten their values. They need to go back, and they deserve time in the wilderness. They need to go back, read their Robert Menzies speeches, go back, figure out who they are and that they're for aspirational Australia. Because what's coming down the pike here, Rowan and Rita, Anthony Albanese is now in a position to change permanently, or for a long time, the political settlement in this country, meaning that everybody becomes dependent on the government in one way or another. Once that gets set in concrete, it is very hard to undo until we hit a crisis.
We are going to get the Victorification of Australia.
Yes.
You're going to see what's happened in Victoria nationally.
Yep.
And the coalition bears a great deal of the blame because, as James just explained, they have tried to be all things to all people. They haven't been principled in actually providing the Australian people with a choice, a clear choice.
Yep.
And this is what's going to happen. It really is bewildering, the strategy that they employed. I struggle to understand. I think maybe they thought we need to appeal to those inner city electorates to try to win back those Till seats. And in their efforts to do that, they not only lost their principles, but also lost sight of what is going to be their new base, which isn't those affluent inner city seats. That's never going to be the Liberal base going forward. This is a thing that's bigger than Australia. This is a trend, a phenomenon that is evident in the UK. It's evident in the US. The more affluent are leaning increasingly left, and the working class, middle class, aspirational classes are leaning right. Now, you either embrace that and utilise it, or you fight against it, which the coalition in Australia appear to be doing, and to their detriment, as we've just seen. I mean, what did they give the electorate? What reason did they give the electorate to throw out a first-term government?